You're listening to Storage Nerds Podcast, where we unravel the best-kept secret of the real estate investing world, the storage industry. Join the grassroots guru in self-storage, Stacy Rossetti, in insightful discussions about finding, funding, and running these spaces, allowing you to yield the highest returns possible. Get your foot in the door on self-storage and discover how to properly purchase facilities, negotiate with sellers, and close the deal without worries. Start unpacking that investment wisdom with Stacy right now.
I'm going to just quickly go over the 4 stages, and then we're going to move on to like management stuff is what we're going to do today. Okay. So, and the management, there's like a whole module of management in the course too, as well. Well, actually, you know what I want to say? I want to say too that, like a lot of people, when you're thinking about like how to get started in self-storage investing, all they think about is like, how do I find them and how do I fund them? That's really kind of what they're thinking. Like, how do you buy them? How do you know how do you know if it's a good deal? How do you find these things, right? Finding them is easy. I mean, they're just like storage facilities, right? But, how do you know if it's a good deal? And then how do you find the money to buy them, right? But the truth is all that is really like stage 1. All right, stage 1 is getting a facility under contract. And the truth is that when you buy a storage facility, you are buying a business. It is an investment. Like in a tax perspective, it's an investment property, which is awesome, right? Because you get all those tax benefits. But the truth is that you're buying a retail business. And so you have to be good at managing your facility. When you buy storage facilities, you become asset managers. That's what it is. You're an asset manager. You're not even a property manager. You're an asset manager, right? So, so you have to really, like a lot of people, I'm telling you, when I talk to people, they do not think about the management side. But the truth is the management portion of owning a facility is the most important part because you have to run a business. And, you have to understand how to run a business properly, right? You have to think about how you're going to increase your income and decrease your expenses, right? Your NOI is like super important, but like, so are your expenses and your mortgage and stuff. And it all kind of flows together. So, I just want to keep that in mind. I know a lot of people here are thinking, I want to learn how to find them and fund them, right? But the truth is, what I'm going to teach you today is kind of like the most important part, right? All right. Let's do this. Stages. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Okay. All right. So remember, you've got it like, it looks like this, right? Okay. Obviously. All right. Stage 1 is getting your facility under contract. And this is what we went over last time. And this is what I go over in the second week of every month. Okay. What do you need to do in order to get the facility under contract? This also in the course is like modules 1 through 3. Okay, so lots of videos in there if you need some help on this. Okay, and then in stage, so now we've got it under contract is where we're going to start our lessons today. Okay, so stage 2, we've got it under contract, and the question is now what do we do, right? Okay, and I talked about this. There's 2 aspects to stage 2. If anybody remembers, put it into the chat, all right, if you were here last time. The two main stages are funding, right? So you got it under contract. And in commercial real estate, like I would say, you don't really go and get pre-approved. Now, like you could go to like your bank and say, hey, I want to buy a storage facility. What do you think? And they can kind of sort of pre-approve you. But the truth is like commercial lending is asset-based lending. Commercial lending is asset-based lending. It's all based on like how much the property is going to be making. All right. So, so funding really happens in stage 2. I'm not going to get into funding because we're not talking about that this week, right? We're talking about management. But the second part of stage 2 is the onboarding stage, the onboarding. I really like how this is looking, man. It's like super clear, right? I'm not sure what I did, but I got this like really nice. That's cool. Okay. So we're going to talk about onboarding today. All right, that's what we're going to talk about. And then onboarding is this is the goal. The goal of onboarding is when I close on this facility, how do I take payments? All right, so obviously, like I said, you're buying a business, right? So, you want to be able to take payments as soon as you close on your facility. And believe me, when I first started out, like nobody about that at all. Nobody told me, right? So like I was so excited I was buying a storage facility. And we went to the closing, and then at the close, I did nothing up till the closing. Okay. And then at the closing, like the owner, gave me like this big, like stack of just like, folder, like manila folders with like, contracts and stuff. And I was like, all right, time to get to it, And at the same time, like, the owner was like, people would call him and they'd be like, you got to call Stacy. She's the new owner. Like, just give my phone number out. And it was just like utter chaos. We had not done anything to onboard our facility, done nothing, right? And so I don't want you to go through that. I want you to be like on closing day, I want you to be prepared to just get this thing up and going as fast as you possibly can. Because it took us like 6 months, because it does take a couple of months to onboard your facility. And it took us a good like 6 months to really kind of not stabilize it, to just even get it to where we were like managing it normal, right? But the truth is like if you onboard it, if you pre-board it or onboard it before you close, then you're not as stressed out, right? As you would be otherwise. Okay. Okay, and then stage 3. So now you've onboarded. We've been through these two. Now you've onboarded your facility. You've done everything that you possibly could to be ready to take payments, right? On day 1 of closing, and or the first week of closing. Doesn't be day 1, but the first week of closing, right? Now stage 3 is what we call transfer ownership. The transfer ownership stage. Transfer ownership. Okay. So transfer ownership means, right? So you have to, you are now getting all of your tenants into your software, right? And you're basically, transfer ownership really means like you're chasing tenants. That's really what it means. Now, obviously, if you're buying a facility and there's like no tenants, then this is not going to take that long of a time, right? So I have a student right now, she's buying a facility and in California, and there's no tenants. So like she still has to onboard everything. She has to do all the onboarding, but when they transfer the ownership over, or when they transfer ownership over, then essentially she just has to, start like marketing and stuff. Right? Which brings me to stage 4, right? So now you've transferred the ownership. And also another thing too, is this typically takes like 90 to 120 days. Okay. So like onboarding takes the same amount of time. It takes a long time to onboard. People don't realize how much work it is to onboard a facility. And a lot of people, they don't end up doing all of it until after they close. But, this stage right here is about 90 to 120 days. Now, that's really the same amount of time that it would take to fund it. So if you actually funded it. Now, owner financing, if you pay cash, you can close whenever you want, right? But if you're owner financing, typically you're closing in like 60 to 90 days. All right. But then if you're going to a bank, especially nowadays, like to close in 90 days is really hard. And I know because we're funding one of our deals right now through a bank. And, they just keep pushing the date out. Even though they say, oh, yeah, we can close in 30 days or 45 days, they just keep pushing it out. And the truth is like, give yourself 3 months at least minimum on this stage, because it just takes a lot of time and effort to close a facility. It just really does. Commercial real estate just takes a lot of time. It just does. Okay. And then the transfer ownership phase as well, too, is typically about 90 to 120 days. Right. I mean, this is really like you're getting all of your, your tenants into your software and trying to really get the basics of your software set up. That's really what this is. And it just takes, especially when you have a brand new software, it just takes like, there's a learning curve to figuring it out. Right. And, it takes time and effort. So just give yourself some time to do this as well, too. Okay. And then, so now after a couple of months of like getting everybody into the system, trying to get everything all up and running, you're like, okay, let me start really like automating and systematizing, right? Automating and systematizing. And also under this is marketing. Okay. And, really marketing for tenants. How do you get new tenants? Okay, you can see this. I'm blocking that. Okay, good. Okay, so automating and systems is stage 4. Okay, you see how these stages go right here? This is the cycle of self-storage investing right here. Okay, now, obviously, if you're going to be buying like $10 million facilities, the stages might be a little bit different, but actually it's kind of the same, honestly. It's kind of the same. This is the good outline of it. This is the cycles of investing in self-storage. And when you're in this stage 4 right now, you're really working on kind of getting your facility up and running, automated, and you really want to make this is where you make it like passive income. This is where you make it passive income, because you're really going to get in there and automate everything, right? Is the stage 4. So this one to me is the most important stage of all the stages, really, as how passive can you make your facility? And so spend some time here getting this up and running. Okay. And now, like after a couple of months of really kind of getting in there, now you can see here, like you're 90 to 120 days, right? You're in each of these. This is like 4 quarters. This is a year, right? So like storage investing is like slow and steady wins the race. Right now, I've had students buy like, 2-3 facilities in a year. And I'm telling you, everybody that's bought more than one facility that I've talked to, they've said like, we bit off way more than we could chew, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with buying more facilities. I mean, but the truth is if you could really get in there and really kind of learn these stages, and really kind of set the foundations of your business off. Year one, you're buying 1, and then year 2, you could buy 2, and year 3, you could buy 3, and year 4, you could buy 4. This is how we did it. All right. So slow and steady wins the race. We're buying 1 a quarter now. And just think about if you were buying 1 a quarter of these, you would have to have your finding down. You would have to have your funding down. What do you think I'm doing? I'm pitching. In fact, you guys can always hop on my pitch. If you want to give me some money, I have a fund. I'm raising money. Just go to stacyrossetti.com/fund. I'm trying to raise money. I got another deal under contract this past week. Okay, but under contract, we have that down. I can find deals for sure, right? Funding, always raising money. No matter what, you should be always raising money. And onboarding takes 90 days. And then you close on it 90 days, and then automating and systematizing it 90 days, right? And then you're like a machine. You're just moving one deal to the next deal, one deal to the next stage. And so that's like me and my husband, we had a meeting today. We were sitting and discussing this. And it's like, that's what we're doing. And internally, we have one person that solely works on onboarding. That is her job. Is as soon as we get this under contract, Christy, she has a plan where a system where she's onboarding that facility and getting everything that she needs to get done. And then Jim, he works on transfer ownership. right? So once we close on that facility, he's making sure all this gets done. And then Bonnie, who's been working with us for like 7 years, she really kind of manages all this is what she does. Stage 4. And she's like, this is like the management part, right? This is management. Okay. So, so we have like, we have virtual systems that do this. We have, our in-house people that are doing this. That's how it is for us. So it's really like a machine. And we are working very hard to make this machine awesome. Okay. All right. So that's internally, that's kind of how we look at the stages. Now let's kind of dig a little bit deeper into each one of these stage 2, 3, and 4. That's what we're going to do today. Okay. Are y'all here? Y'all still with me? Say yes. Say, I want to be a self-storage investing machine in the chat if you're listening to me. Okay. All right. Good. All right, good. People are actually amusing me. That's good. Okay. All right. So, so let's do stage 2. Okay, this is the onboarding. Remember, we're only doing the management part, right? So onboarding. Okay. So onboarding is everything that you need to do to take payments. I need to take payments. So what do I need to do? Right? What do I need to do? Okay, so the first thing that you need to do is you need to get your software set up. Okay. Now there are like a lot of softwares out there. Honestly, like you just do like, what, you could always just be doing demos. You could do demos of softwares now just to kind of get an idea of what's out there, and, there's like, when I started like, 6 years ago, there was like 3 softwares. That was it. 3. There's SiteLink, Storage, and ESS. That was it. Okay. And I did a demo of all 3 of them is what I did. Now remember, I did not do the demo of all 3 of them until after we closed on the facility. So like the first, month, I'm just like, meeting tenants, driving over. Now the facility that we bought was like 20 minutes away. So it wasn't that big of a deal. But, but that's what I was doing. I was going over and meeting tenants and like doing all kinds of stuff like this, right? We want to like eliminate that, right? We want to get everything automated like day 1, And also this, the thing that I tell my students too is train your tenants. We're going to get into that in stage 3. It's train your tenants, but you have to set up the systems so that the tenants can be trained. Because I'm telling you, if you do not train your tenants, guess what they're going to do? They're going to take advantage of you. That's what they're going to do. They're going to take advantage, right? So let's train our tenants. Let's prepare the systems. So you want to do demos of softwares and really kind of familiarize yourself with the softwares. We use StoreEdge is what we use. Not the cheapest, not the most expensive, but it is, I would say, out of all the softwares, it's the most robust. I'm telling you, I've done I've done demos of every software out there, and StoreEdge, my students, when they start using StoreEdge, they complain about it. They're like, why can't I do this? And what about this and stuff? And I'm, it's a learning curve, and it's like a new thing that you have to get to know and stuff. But the truth is like, I ask all the people that are doing the demos, can it do this? Can it do this? And a lot of them are like, oh, we're working on that. It's always like, we're working on that. We're working on that. But what StoreEdge is really good at is like listening to what the owners of facilities need, and then they implement it. They implement it is what they do. So like our softwares are like, the software is amazing, but it's not like, it is user friendly, but it's not like the easiest of all of them. Okay. It's not the most basic or whatever. So you have to, there's a learning curve. And then ESS, I would say probably is the most basic, ESS, okay? And, but then there's like Hummingbird and Yardi. Let's see, Hummingbird. I've heard a lot about Hummingbird, U-Haul. I've heard U-Haul is the cheapest. I would say of all of them, I think U-Haul is the cheapest. And what else? And then storage, ESS, Hummingbird, U-Haul, and then Breeze is by Yardi. Okay. And if anybody has any other ones, just put them into the chat because I can't remember them all. I've done demos of all these. I've brought these all, and they've all done demos inside of our mastermind as well too. And just remember that you get what you pay for. Just remember that, all right? And so for me, like, what we think of is how can I make this as passive as I possibly can? That's really kind of our goal. I mean, how do we manage 13 facilities? We're adding 3 more facilities to our portfolio in the next 90 days. How do we manage all those internally? How can we make those passive? Now, if you're only going to have 1 facility or 2 facilities, you could go with like ESS or U-Haul, and they're just like super basic. But if you want to create a portfolio, then you need to be looking at like super robust softwares that can, really manage and do things that, at like corporate levels and things like that, right? So again, setting this, I'm telling you, and the reason I'm talking so much about this software is that, SiteLink, thanks. SiteLink is like the older software, and a lot of bigger facilities use that. I'll sit here while y'all can see that. Now, so the reason I'm talking so much about this software is because the software is the backbone of your facility. The software is what's going to manage 80% of what you do. And the truth is that 80% of all storage facility owners only use 20% of what the software offers. All right? And I want you to be utilizing what the software offers, no matter which one that you pick. I want you to utilize what the software offers, because that is what's going to create passive income. And not only that, that's what's going to create the foundation of your business so that you can, do it again and again and again, right? But if you're like, you have one software for this one and one software for this one, and it's just going to be like a whole big thing, or if you have one software for all of them, but you can't do like, corporate level stuff or whatever, then I'm telling you, I've heard and talked to owners over the past, 6 years I've been doing this. And, and I just see the complaints that a lot of people have. And the truth is that we really honestly don't have a lot of complaints about our software at all. I mean, we're utilizing everything that storage has to offer. Okay. Now we were complaining for a while because what happened was that storable is like kind of the bigger player in the industry, and they own ESS, storage, and SiteLink. Okay. And actually they owned SiteLink. They bought SiteLink. And then they bought storage, and then they bought ESS. And then they own a whole bunch of other stuff we'll get into in just a minute. But when we first started, they were like storage. When Storable bought all 3 of those, like it was, so they had SiteLink. They bought SiteLink, but I wasn't in SiteLink, so I didn't really go through that, like, that phase. But then they bought storage, and like it was just a disaster, because like this huge company came in and bought them, and then they were trying to figure out because when I started using storage, there were 5 people that worked for the company. That was it. There was 5 people. And then all of a sudden, like maybe a couple of years later, like Storable came and bought the software, the storage. And so we had to go through this, like these growing pains with storage. So for like a good year, maybe even 2 years, like they were really trying to figure out what they were doing, and so we had to go through that. So yeah, there was a lot of like changes and stuff. Everybody was complaining about it, and a lot of people went out. That's why a lot of software started to be created, honestly, is because people were just annoyed with that whole process. But we stuck with storage. And actually what happened is like we became beta testers for them. And so now Pete really like they'll call on him to say like, hey, we're gonna roll this thing out. Can you test it for us and see if it works? And so like we went through the going period, we stuck with them, and I'm telling you that the storage software, they're still updating it, but it's super powerful. And so we don't have any complaints with storage at all, right? But it is a learning curve to learn. Okay, so software, pick your software, pick whichever one that you want to do, pick. And everybody's really liking, I'm hearing a lot about Hummingbird and U-Haul right now, Hummingbird and U-Haul, okay? But the one thing that I really don't like about them is that they do not have, like, unless you guys correct me if anybody knows, but they do not have a lot of revenue management stuff. And they don't have a lot of stuff that Storable offers. That Storage offers. So we'll get into like revenue management in like the stage 4. But so this is the first thing is like pick your software. Okay. And then the second thing is you need to, so when you pick your software, you're going to have to set up your merchant account. Okay. Set up a merchant account, which I was like, set up a merchant account. Like, it's a pain in the butt to set up a merchant account, honestly. And and some of them, you could pick whichever merchant account. Storage, you have to use theirs. And it's so funny because I was looking, like we were doing we meet our bookkeeper every Friday and go through our stuff on Fridays. And so we were looking at, like, we were going through our merchant account invoices and kind of cleaning them up in QuickBooks and stuff. And they charge, I don't know if they're going to charge new people, but for us, they're charging 2.1% interest. 2.1% interest, which is like really good because I use Stripe for like all my purchases on, for courses and stuff, and they're charging me like 2.9% interest. So, so storage really has a good merchant account rate. I really like that. So make sure that you're asking these questions too, and setting up a merchant account is like a super important thing because it's like huge. This is fees, like credit card fees are like a huge thing, right? And also another thing too, I've noticed is like with ESS, the merchant account that they make you use is like do a lot of extra fees, like hidden fees and things like this as well too. So, so basically what I'm saying is that, get your demo on your software. And when you're talking to them, also talk to them about how the merchant account works. Can you pick your own or not? And what are their fees? Do they have like hidden fees, or is it just a percentage and all this kind of stuff, right? So again, this is a very important aspect, the merchant account, okay? And then on top of that, and this is where you have to get all this, like work on getting all this done so that you can take payments in the first week that you close, right? Now, obviously they might say like, oh, you have to own the facility. But there's a lot of like stuff that you can do beforehand, like filling out the applications and getting in, just getting it ready, all this kind of stuff. You fill this out, you fill the applications out, and these forms and stuff and everything, and it just takes time for them to do all this. You have the sooner rather than later. Okay. And then also on this too, you have to think about it is your phone system, your phones. How are you going to answer your phones, right? Because, like, are you going to have them call your own phone? Are you going to set up a phone with Grasshopper or whatever? Are you going to use the phone that they provide through the company, or, how are you going to set that up? So it's like, you have to really kind of think through, okay, like if I just have this one account, maybe I could just use voice or I could use theirs. But if I'm going to start getting all these other companies, then how should I set my phone system up? I mean, we use Grasshopper. We have 23 lines on Grasshopper. It's kind of complicated. Phones, as you grow, get very, very complicated. All right. So thinking about it ahead of time is like super important. Okay. All right. Okay. So, and then, so that's like kind of software stuff. Okay. That's like software, getting stuff like ready to go. And then you also have, you need to get on Google Maps. You need to be able to get on Google Maps. Which is like kind of onboarding and then like management. But like trying to figure out how to do this and setting up an account and setting everything up, this takes time. This is not easy. All right. And trying to figure out the whole thing is Google is just crazy with like their way of doing stuff, right? If anybody's ever put a business on Google Maps, it is not easy to put it on, like, especially nowadays, like the fraud and all this kind of stuff. So Google Maps is something. And then also another thing is your insurance. Okay. Insurance for the facility itself, like insurance, like if there's a fire or something like that. Okay. Hazard insurance. So you need to get like quotes because, you know, when you close on this property, you need to have insurance, right? And a lot of times with lending, you have to do that, you know, whatever it is. You have to name, if you have owner finance, it's good, but the beneficiary, the owner has to be named the beneficiary. So there's a lot to insurance, and getting a quote for insurance is not something that takes 24 hours. It could take like a week to 2 weeks, maybe. It takes a long time to get insurance quotes. It just does, you know, and then you want to get like a whole bunch of quotes, because if you just get one, you're gonna be like, what? You're just gonna be freaking out, right? Because like insurance is so expensive a lot of times. You're like, is that normal? And then also a lot of times, like in Florida, you gotta get flood insurance. You know, flood insurance is like, you gotta get that too, right? So in some areas you gotta get certain insurances and stuff. Okay. So this also takes time. And then another thing too is, and this is something maybe not with onboarding, but it could be done beforehand to prepare. Is the mailbox. The mailbox. Does your facility have a mailbox? Because you might have to, Google Maps might, you know, send a postcard to you. Now, Google Maps is like Google Business Listings or whatever it's called, Google Profile or whatever it's called now. They're like changing it up and like changing the way they do this. So I'm not sure. Like, if has anybody put a business on? Do they still do do they still send you the postcard and have like the numbers in it, or you could just come on and put your number? So, but that's kind of how we did it. Is like, and that's how we've done it up until. Actually, that's how we've done it on all of them pretty much. But they send you a postcard. Google sends you a postcard with the code, and then you go into your profile and then you put the code in it. And then and then you have to go through and finish your profile up. So you need to have a mailbox there. And I'm going to tell you, most storage facilities do not have mailboxes. In fact, the only reason that we ever have a mailbox at any of our facilities is because we have to put this damn postcard up, right? So, if y'all have gone through this process, put it in the chat, let everybody know what's going on. But, so a mailbox is really important. Now, we have one facility where, like, we had to put the mailbox up, and and we went to that they had never had a mailbox before, so we had to go to the PO, like, what's it called, the post office. And we said, okay, we need to put a mailbox up. So where do we put this thing up? And they were like, okay, put it here. And it's kind of like it has like a drive, like our facility is over here, and there's like a huge drive, right? And they wanted us to put this like mailbox, like right where the guy could come in, and then like there'd be the mailbox right there, put the mail in and go, right? I'm telling you, this mailbox, like, we got the postcard, we got it on Google Maps. And now we have already had to put this damn mailbox up like at least 3 times, because it's in this weird turn where people just keep hitting it and then it just gets knocked down. It's like so annoying. So we just decided to take the mailbox down. So we also had like no mailbox at our storage facility, right? So we're like, no mailbox. We don't even need it there. We got the card. That's it. Because we just forward all of our addresses to like our mailing address. We forward all the mail there, right? So, but you have to have it in order to get onto Google Maps for the most part. Okay, for the most part. All right. So now there's like 50 things, honestly, with onboarding. Like, we have a checklist inside our coaching program where it's like there's 50 different things. In fact, actually, you can get that checklist if you buy the Dill Analyzer. If you buy the Dill Analyzer, there's a checklist that comes inside the Dill Analyzer that's called the onboarding checklist. So if you want to get that checklist, I highly recommend that you check out the Dill Analyzer. You can go to the website, stacyrossetti.com, and see it. But there's like 50 different things that you have to do for the onboarding process. And I can't remember all of them, but this is like kind of the main stuff. The main stuff is really getting your software set up and getting that going. Okay. All right, so there is stage 2, okay? All right, we need to be able to take payments. That's really where we're at. Okay, so now stage 3, let's just move on to stage 3. Stage 3 is remember, transfer ownership. Okay, so now we're going to transfer ownership. All right, we have our software set up. Okay, and so now we own the facility. But we don't have in our software, we don't have our tenants inside the software. Okay, so we have to get our tenants in the software. All right, so you have to have a list of tenants. Okay, and like storage, they'll give you like a spreadsheet and say fill the spreadsheet out. And it's like this like massive, huge spreadsheet. It's like so many columns, and you got to fill it out. It's like so annoying, right? But you have to and then if you buy a facility where they don't have any software, then you're going to be like filling this spreadsheet out, and it's going to take like forever, right? And then of course, if you buy one that there's already software there, then you could always export it and send it over and clean it up and stuff like this. But I say because every facility we've ever bought, like nobody's ever had software, right? Now, but you need to have your tenants in a spreadsheet that you can send over to the software, because they will do like the first kind of like import for you and kind of set up like the very basics they'll set up for you. Okay, but you have to have all that information. So if you're buying an income producing property that already has a software, well, then it might be a little bit easier than if you're buying a mismanaged facility that does not have a software, right? And so then you'll have to go through. So for instance, like we just bought a facility where it was like 135 doors, and he did not have the software. And so Bonnie is like, she's getting really good at this, but she's sitting there and putting all this information into the spreadsheet for us, right? That's the onboarding section. Remember, she's sitting there doing all this for us so that we can give it to storage and import it. Right, but just know you have to get your tenants into the software somehow, okay? Because when you own the facility, your tenants, right? Your tenants have to start their account. Right? They got to go in. You know how it is, right? It's now online, and they got to go in and fill out their profile, right? And get into the system. And on top of that, they also have to put profile, and also they have to add their payment method. Add the payment method. Okay? Because that does not transfer. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which software that you have. The payment method does not transfer over. Okay, so you're going to have to get every tenant to log into their account, set their profile up, and get it and put their payment information in. Okay, which is not easy at all. And on top of that, you have to get them to sign your new contract. So you have to that's on the onboarding section. Okay, so we'll put that here, contract. Contract. You have to get the contract either from your attorney, like an attorney that understands self-storage law in your state, or you can join your self-storage association and get the contract from them, and you have to pay like a couple $100 to get that. I'm saying like most self-storage associations, they'll give you the contract for free for joining the association, right? And you want to get the one that's for your state. Now, over time, we got the Georgia Self-Storage Association contract, and then we've used it now for 6 years and updated it, sent it to our attorney, and they've updated it and stuff like this as well too. And so the newer tenants are always signing the newest contract, right? For every state that we have a facility in. But we started out by just getting it from the Self-Storage Association. Now we know, like, we should just give it to our attorney. We'll just take this and give it to the attorney and have them just check it to make sure it's okay, which I highly recommend, which is part of the onboarding process, because you're going to have to give that contract to your software so that they can import it into the software. And they will import it into the software, all right, for you, and set up all the fields and stuff. Right? But guess what? They can't set your contract up until you have your fee structure set up. Right? Okay, so you have to know what your fees are going to be. If they're late, what's this? What day is it late on? How much are they going to be charged? If they have to overlock, how much are they going to be charged? If they're, if you got to go to the auction process, how do you get charged? Are you doing deposits or not doing deposits? This whole thing, all right? You have to do all this. So you have to know the fee structure, because when you give it to your software company, they're going to have to put this into the contract as a field that, like, yes, I agree. Essentially what we do is we do clicks of initials for every fee. Like, yes, I understand this. Yes, I understand this. Yes, I understand this. Right. And you can set that up in your software. So you do all those initials by every fee that you have. But in the beginning, I think they'll do one time. They'll come in and kind of set up the basics for you, your software. Now, I don't know if every software does that, honestly, but I know Storage does this for sure. Right? I'm assuming that the other ones kind of help you a little bit, right? All right, so you're setting up your fee structure. So you're getting your tenants into the system, getting them to start the account, getting them to add their payment information and to sign the contract. And you have to set your fee structure up so that they can have a contract that they can sign, right? And you cannot do really most of this until the day of closing, right? And so this takes you need to be when you're closing, you need to be on top of it, especially if you're closing at the end of the month. We typically try to close towards the end of the month, and that means that we need to be on top of it so that we can start taking payments of that month immediately, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how we are. Okay. So that's transfer ownership. Another part of transfer ownership is that, and then also you have to notify the tenants. You have to notify the tenants that you're the new owner, right? And, so we have we notify them that we're the new owner. And then on top of that, we get the owners to notify them that they're selling the property and that we're the new owner. So the tenants get notified twice from us. And also what's important is that if you're going to raise rates immediately, then you need to put that into your letter. Our rate changes are immediate. We rip the Band-Aid is what we do. And so you have to have your new rate structure in the letter of notification, letting the tenants know that you're the new owners. And you also have to have it in the fee structure here so that you can get the contract signed. Whew, man, that's exhausting. I'm exhausted just teaching this stuff. All right. Okay. All right, so that's the basics. Now, obviously, there's way more to this. Okay, so the software itself, I'm giving you the basics, but the software itself does everything. Okay, so your communication with the tenant. Right? So we do all communication is through email and text messages, right? Typically, we have that all set up, ready to go when we're closing on the facility. So that means you have to have, and then we send an email to notify as well, too, if we have their email addresses. A lot of times we don't have the email address, okay? But communication, think about how you're going to communicate with the software. Most softwares, I don't know if all of them do, actually, honestly. I don't know if even ESS records your calls, but Storage records all your calls. And, and so you have to have that all set up. You have to have your email communication for all your fee structures set up. Could you imagine? You have to have emails for every single one of the charges you're going to do. And you have to have Text message, email and text set up. Email and text. Okay. And you have to set all that up, right? For your fee structures. Now they set up the basics for you, right? Just like simple emails and stuff like, hey, and then you can go into the software and they have like templates set up, and then you just pick which ones, and then you can like modify those templates and stuff and put your logo and all this kind of stuff. But guess what? All that takes time and energy. You're basically in this stage, you're chasing tenants to get them to get into your system. And you have to be able to chase them by letters, emails, and text messages and phone calls, right? So guess what? All that has to be set up beforehand so that you can do that when you close on the facility. Okay? All right. So that's like the basics. That's like in stage 3. Remember, this is like 90 to 120 days. You're like getting the basics set up. Getting the basics, like I just need to get the tenants in the system, man, and I just need to get the emails done so I can email everybody and let them know they need to pay me and stuff. Okay, this kind of stuff, right? Okay, so that's stage 3. Okay, now after a couple of months of chasing tenants, right, you get into stage 4, which is automation. Okay. And then stage 4 is like, there's 2 parts to this. One of them is marketing. Right? Because instead, the first 3 months, you're just like, I gotta get in there. Now, actually, I haven't even talked about, honestly, this is all software. This is all just software. There's nothing here about boots on the ground. There's nothing about like getting a boots on the ground person set up, which is actually onboarding. It's onboarding. Boots on the ground, if you're going to hire them. Or like a phone person to answer your phones, Like this is like at the facility. At the facility. I'm only talking about software, but you need to do at facility. Which lists all this stuff out in the onboarding checklist and the deal analyzer. But at the facility, it's like, okay, now you're at the facility. You got to get your sign set up. You got to get your phone person, your boots on the ground if you need that, so all this kind of stuff. And so we're not even getting into that. We haven't even gotten to that yet. But just so that know that there's like 2 parts as well, too. It's the software, and then it's also the live in person. How are you going to manage the facility itself in person? Okay. So now, and then here you have stage 4, which is the marketing. All right. Because in the stage 3, you're not thinking about you're really kind of thinking about it, but you're not doing a lot of marketing for tenants, right? The marketing for tenants, you kind of sort of start in stage 3, but you really kind of do it in stage 4. In stage 4, the first thing you're going to do is really get Sparefoot set up. Now, Sparefoot is the thorn in your side. All right. Sparefoot's like super expensive. All right. But you have to do it really in the beginning while you're you get this set up so you can bring tenants in while you're trying to get the entire thing set up. Okay. But it's very expensive. And your ultimate goal is to not use Sparefoot. Your ultimate goal is online marketing for tenants. Okay. So this is like, how do you market? How do you get tenants in? Like, gone are the days where you could just put a sign in the front yard and be like, all right, got a storage facility. If I put a sign up, they will come, right? It just doesn't work like that. All right. You got to be marketing. So you have to do you have to learn how to put yourself out onto the online world, because now people are just like, if you're not on Google Maps, if you're not doing Google Ads, then essentially you're being missed, right? For the most part. Okay. So online marketing for tenants is very important. This is all getting online. Doesn't matter how small or how big your facility is. You have to be marketing online to find tenants. You have to be. All right. And, because there's way too much competition out there. And if you're not doing something to put yourself in front of people, then you're missing out. Okay. So that's part one. And then the second part is software. Okay. Software. And this is where you're getting in and you're doing inside your software revenue management and like dynamic pricing. If you are not doing dynamic pricing and revenue management, then you are not managing your facility properly. You don't need to be doing this manually. Now, a lot of people do this manually because they don't know how to utilize the software. But if you get a software that can do this, like storage, you can manage this automatically. That means that, when you're 80% full, your units are this much. If you're 85, it's this much. If you're 90, it's this much. If you're 95, it's this much. 98, it's this much. And there's one left, it's like super expensive. And then it goes back down, right? So if you start getting vacancy, then your prices start dropping. And this is all automated in your software, okay? And then you have to do your auctions and your mail house. Can your softwares do this? Because this is a lot of work. People don't realize how much work auction processes are. But if you can do an online auction through your software, then why would you not do that? You don't need to be going and doing live auctions anymore. I mean, everything can be automated. And your mail house is, like I said, when you notify tenants that you're the new owner, if any type of letter that needs to go out for rate changes or new ownership or whatever it is, your software can manage that itself, right? You just have to pay for it, to go out. But I mean, you pay somebody, you pay you or somebody else to do it, or you pay them to do it, right? Might as well just have it all set up. So it's like, okay, do it and click and you're done, right? All right. So auctions and mail house. And then on top of that, you need to really get into your fee structure, your unit mixes, and then your communication, your emails, texts. You have the basics set up in stage 3, but let's fine tune this. Let's really get in and fine tune this so this can be truly automated. And that's where you spend a couple months really figuring the software out, utilizing the software to the best of its ability so that you can make this, right, passive income. As passive as you possibly can make it. Now, obviously, you have to do some work. It's not 100% passive, right? But I mean, still, you want to make it as passive as you can, and you do that by online marketing for tenants, automate that, and then all your software internally automating that, okay? And that is all 4 stages, or actually it's 3 stages. So 3 stages: onboarding, transfer ownership, and automation, okay? So hopefully you have a better idea now of management and how it works and what you should be focusing on, okay? And then the next Monday is the first week. So we'll be doing some 101 stuff and doing that as well too, okay? And I'm going to now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop onto my pitch, which is for the Self-Storage Fund of America. So make sure you go to stacyrossetti.com/fund, FUND. If you want to be a passive investor, you're seeing this, you're like, oh my gosh, this is way too much time, too much work. Let me just give Stacy her money and she'll manage it for me, right? That's the fun that I'm going to do right now, okay? All right, I appreciate your time, and I will see you guys at the next session, all right? Take care.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Storage Nerds. Hope this informative conversation inspired you to go out there and jump into this highly profitable business venture that people rarely talk about. Get more tips on storage space investing at www.stacyrossetti.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave a rating. Together, let's build that thriving passive income one storage space at a time. Until next time.